Hi guys and welcome back. I've been testing DAC-AM combos and all-in-one devices for a very long time, but only a handful of units nailed everything just right. The DAC section, the preamp, the headphone amplifier, the streamer. Some of them feel more like DACs with extra features that don't perform that well, while others feel like headphone amplifiers with mediocre DAC sections. There is a reason why I'm using separate DACs and standalone headphone amplifiers and streamers, because I want to get maximum performance. Today, however, I'll be testing a unit that doesn't feel like a random DAC with extra features, but a unit that I would like to get and use for a very long time. This puppy right here is called HiFiMan Goldenwave Serenade, and it goes for $999 US, but you can get a B-stock unit for $899 US, including on HiFiMan web store, and I think that is the right time to check it out. Design-wise, there are things which I really like about this one, and only a few things which I believe were overlooked. But overall, the build quality is really solid on this one. So this is a fully CNC machined aluminum case with rounded edges, with a decent elevation from the ground, thanks to those 4 rubber feet. We have a very simple looking UI with a monochrome display and with 3 headphone jacks. The part which I don't like that much is the oversimplified UI, which lets you choose only the brightness of the screen, select the input and output, and that's pretty much it. So no digital filters, no sound color options, no gain settings, no preamp settings, so no things that you might find interesting. The other con I have is the overall look of its front panel. Like 2 units were merged together, and this is what we got. It's not ugly per se, but their prelude is more premium and simpler looking in my opinion. As for controls, we have a volume wheel on the right. We have 3 headphone jacks on the left, out of which 2 unbalanced outputs. We have 3 buttons on top, which lets you choose the input, the output, and everything else was moved on its back. There you'll find a couple of digital inputs like USB Type-B, optical, coaxial, an Ethernet port which engages is onboard the streamer, and a microSD card slot that is used for future firmware updates. We have RCA analog inputs, meaning that it can work as a standalone preamplifier, and a pair of RCA and XLR outputs will let you use as a DAC or as a DAC and preamp. As you all know by now, I'm trying to open all the cases that are coming for a review, so no exceptions. I already opened that EF500 and EF499 and you saw all the internals. However, after removing all the screws, the volume port, everything, I simply couldn't open up this case. I presume a few ribbon cables are holding this one together, so for now I'll use only the pictures that I can find online. First and foremost, Serenade is an R2R ladder DAC that uses some of their upper class Himalaya Pro silver modules. However, you can upgrade those to Himalaya Pro Gold, which can be found only in their $15,000 US EF1000 DAC, which should improve its dynamic range and also lower distortion. The output stage of this unit uses FET op-amps, which completely bypassed coupling capacitors for a shorter and for a cleaner signal path. The headphone amplifier section is equally impressive, so it uses only discrete components, transistors. We have 4 modules, and all of that is biased into Class A operation, and that is actually quite amazing. It provides 4 watts of power via balanced outputs in 32 ohms and 760 milliwatts in 300 ohms, and that should be enough for most headphones out there. Everything is powered by a custom 50-watt linear transformer that is then regulated and filtered for the cleanest possible power. Before I'll describe its sound, there is one very important feature that HiFiMan is not mentioning on its marketing materials or on the webpage. The Serenade is ROON Enabled, and it can be used as a ROON endpoint. Now, this is a very big deal for ROON users like me, because all I need to do is just connect an Ethernet cable, launch ROON on my smartphone, enable the Serenade as the main unit, select the music I want to play, and that is pretty much it. If you want the very best performance from the Serenade, then the Ethernet input gets my highest recommendation, as you are simply bypassing an extra conversion that is happening via optical, coaxial, or USB. You might raise an eyebrow right now, and that's fine, but after going back and forth between all those digital inputs, Ethernet via ROON sounded simply the best to me. The sound was slightly tighter, it was pouring much nicer, it was slightly more natural, slightly more textured, and also tighter sounding, so I believe the sound was simply better via Ethernet. I used ROON Core, isn't so expensive nowadays, and maybe the time has come to check what's the fuss about ROON, since the first month won't cost you anything. When I'm thinking about custom 50-watt transformers, fully discrete amp stages, fully discrete output stages, everything biased into class A operation, I'm also thinking about heat generation and heat dissipation. Luckily, HiFiMan somehow managed to move all that hot air outside the case because it's not getting so hot. So I can read right now 39.4 degrees Celsius. Maximum that I saw was 41.5 degrees Celsius, which equals to around 107 degrees Fahrenheit, which is much lower to what I'm usually expecting from such units. If you look closer, there is some space between the top plate and the front panel. That space is moving the hot air outside the case, so the part I complained about its look now makes all the sense to me. Now let's talk about the sound of the Serenade, which has more than 100 hours of burn-in. And in the usual fashion, I'm always trying to find the limits of the units that I'm trying to review, so I'm always connecting the hardest lows first. So I want to know how much power there is on top, how tight, how effortless everything is sounding. And with the Serenade, I'm not feeling those limits anymore. People tend to believe that 4 watts coming from an amplifier would equal to 4 watts coming from other amplifier, but that is rarely the case. In a controlled environment, yes, you'll get the same SPL if you have the same gain and power, but when listening to music, things are getting very, very different. Case in point, the Serenade provides only 4 watts of power in 32 ohms, while SMSL SHX provides 5.5 watts in the same load, so it's more powerful. But there is a world of difference when comparing these two amplifiers. The Serenade is always power overwhelming when listening with the HiFiMan Susvara. Dynamics in particular are very impressive. Everything is very alive, punchy, dynamic. The tone and timbre, very natural sounding. Everything is pouring effortlessly. But on the SMSL SHX, the sound is thin. It's lacking in terms of dynamics, the bass is nowhere to be found, and the worst of all, it's clipping with the HiFiMan Susvara when going slightly louder, something that is not happening with the Serenade. The Serenade is not the very best headphone amplifier that I have tried with the HiFiMan Susvara, but it's among the best ones that I have tried with the Susvara. And the standout for me was not actually the volume that I was able to reach, but the standout for me were dynamics and how punchy and how tightly controlled it sounded with the Susvara, skills that are usually reserved for ultra powerful and expensive amplifiers. The bass in particular felt muscular, nimble and punchy, sustaining long bass notes without dropping the energy. A much more important standout for me was its tone and its timbre, and its ability to portray the gutturalness of the human voice and the vibration of strings and all those small intricacies like cymbals and bells. The sound was not just playing for me, but it was more like an act of revelation, and it was constantly shushing into my ears. This is how music's supposed to sound. The flow of the music was there, the naturalness was there, it was overflowing, and it felt like it was no longer just playing the music, but like musicians simply entered the room and played live music only for me. Playing El Vito by Wolfgang Hafner was such an eye-opening, or should I say ear-opening experience. The acoustic guitars, the bass, the trumpet, the cymbals, the drumsticks, everything should sound crowded, but everything was actually laid out all around me and I could individually listen to any instrument that I wanted, or I could just close my eyes and go with the flow. The sound wasn't just natural and relaxed, but also weighty and really full-bodied. For the record, I don't feel that it emphasizes a portion of the frequency response, but I can definitely say that there is slightly more energy oozing from the mid-range and bass, while removing all those treble glare and listening fatigue that is not really happening on the Serenade. And my particular headphone setup was tuned exactly like this. So the ROON Wave Dream signature together with the Trifomatic Primavera or with the Ilium AM23R, they sound exactly like this in terms of tone and timbre. So always showing me only the beautiful side of music listening, the weight and the texture, the crazy dynamics, over things like sharpness or listening fatigue. When I'm usually describing the sound of art while at the DACs, it's almost a sure thing that these units won't impress an electronica addict, which wants a really strong kick in the bass and also a super fast transit response, super nimble presentation. The interesting part is that the Serenade is not soft, it's not mellow, and it's not slow sounding, and more like opposite of that. So it's fast, it's snappy, it's nimble, it's really impactful sounding. However, when it comes to impact, the physical kick that you can feel with your body or with your ears, this is where the Serenade is shining like a rock star. And even if EF499 and EF500 by HiFiMan have the same power ratings, this one is definitely providing more oomph in that region. So this one can be both super snappy, super fast sounding, and also really powerful in the bass, having a strong kick, impressing even a transit response addict like me. I won't talk too much about the Soundstage, but I'll say it didn't feel limited like it was the case with the SMSL SHX. The sound goes free and it roams all around you, and sometimes it plays closer to your face, sometimes it's much farther away, somehow hovering all around you. So it really depends on what music are you listening to and what headphones are you listening to. With open backs, of course, that will be much more impressive. With these two, it was really, really impressive. What's more important is that the Serenade was not pushing everything, up front on stage. It was not overlapping the notes on top of each other, and it was not playing everything on a plane. It was somehow widening the sound and also adding a little bit of depth. So there wasn't just a distance in between all those musicians, but also between me and those musicians. And overall, the soundstage and imaging weren't just good, I believe those were great. Do you remember when I compared the EF499 with the EF500 and all the conclusions that I had in that video? Well, that's exactly what I feel when comparing the EF500 with the Serenade, except that this one is ROON enabled, and this is a very important feature for ROON users like me. The sound is weightier on the Serenade. You can feel that a stronger force is pushing the sounds on the Serenade. The sound is also wider and deeper at the same time. The bass goes deeper as well and it's tighter sounding as well. The only difference is that both units share basically the same resolution, the same detail retrieval. And when comparing the Serenade with the SMSL SHX, the sound is sharper and it's more detailed on the SMSL, but at the same time it's no longer as dynamic and it's no longer as alive and punchy sounding. The sound is somehow losing its magic. The vocals are no longer guttural and also natural sounding, and the sound gets thin and uninteresting. With the Serenade, the sound is maybe not as detailed and not as transparent, but it's so much more natural sounding overall, highlighting the beautiful overtones. There is a night and day difference, and you can probably guess why I didn't review the SHX. One amplifier is becoming the music itself, while the other is seriously struggling in providing a decent listening experience. Wrapping up, there were many all-in-one units that I have tried around here, but not so many that impressed me with all of their features. The Serenade, on the other hand, has an outstanding DAC performance, and you can improve it even with those Himalaya Pro Gold modules. The headphone amplifier section was not overlooked, and it's really a powerful one, and you are getting high quality power as opposed to raw power that is not doing justice to headphones. It was easily able to drive all my headphones full stop, yes, even the T+A Solitaire and the HiFiMan Susvara, without limiting their engagement factor. Serenade didn't just sound great, it simply rocked my world, and I'm living for days like this, and I'm even happier knowing that it doesn't cost you an arm and a leg, and I believe it fully deserved my highest Gold award. This is it. Thank you guys for watching. Please consider subscribing if you like this video. My name is Sando and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers!